So today I had the privilege of speaking to the ladies at the Ackworth Business Association luncheon about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is breast cancer. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so Vicki Frank asked me if I would share with the ladies my journey with breast cancer. And so several of them expressed afterwards that because they were in the back of the room, or maybe the acoustics a little bit, they were not able to hear my full presentation. So I thought while it was top of mind, I would go ahead and record my notes and share it with them. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and share it with all of you too, because I feel like that so often we only think about breast cancer during the month of October. And, really we need to be cognizant of it and be thoughtful of prevention, early detection, year round. Topic is called Beyond the Pink Ribbon. We all know that this is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So you've probably seen or heard a lot of people talking about early detection, prevention, what to do if you do get diagnosed. And so I wanted to share a little bit about my journey because mine's a little bit more unique than the average person. And so we really want to look at, number one, the reality of breast cancer. 1 in 8 women are going to face breast cancer in their lifetime. That doesn't mean 1 in 8 women are going to die from breast cancer. That just means that we're going to either have, an early diagnosis, and maybe we end up with a lumpectomy, or it could be that it's a later diagnosis and we have a mastectomy or even a double mastectomy. But just know that 1 in 8 women are going to face this problem in their lifetime. My sister Simone passed at 49. She was diagnosed at 45 with triple negative breast cancer. Hers was different from mine. Mine's invasive lobular carcinoma. And so even though we're connected that way, my aunt also passed with breast cancer, and I have a cousin who also had breast cancer, but we had 3 different types. So not genetically linked. So just know that that's a small percentage of the people that actually have a genetic marker for that. The different types of breast cancer, I didn't even know all these different types. The first one's called ductal carcinoma, and this one is early, non-invasive. A lot of times it's just a small removal of the tumor, and then sometimes no chemo, no radiation, just, go on, live your life, and, eat clean. Invasive ductal carcinoma, that's the one that has the highest number of cases. That's the most common type, and treated early, you absolutely have a very high success rate. Invasive lobular carcinoma, about 10% of women get that. That's what I had. It is not the typical kind that's a hard lump. They say, do the self breast exams, feel for that hard lump. That is not a hard lump at all. Mine was soft and squishy. It's kind of like knowing the difference between a marshmallow and a jellyfish. So, and most of the time, the people who have that also have dense breast, lumpy breast. And so most of the time they discount us at the doctor's office saying that we just have dense breast and we're fine. So triple negative is the next kind, and that is aggressive, and there's very limited treatment. They do a lot of experimental treatment. That is what my sister had and passed from. Her positive, and that is very treatable and definitely easier to detect early. Risk factors, some of these you can't control. Age, the older you are, the higher risk that you're going to get it. Family history, genetic mutations like the BRCA gene. A lot of people actually have their breasts removed and have a hysterectomy when they find out they have the gene. Lifestyle, something that I didn't really know. I carried way too much weight, way too long, tried a lot of things unsuccessfully to address my weight issue, and found out that obesity is just as bad as smoking when it comes to breast cancer and also heart disease and many other things. A sedentary lifestyle, processed foods, artificial sweeteners, too much sugar, sweets, sodas, candy, ice cream. I know, yeah, I'm making y'all all mad at me. Chemical exposure. It could be household chemicals like cleaners, nail salons, getting your hair done. I use stickers now for my nails. I don't color my hair, so any natural highlights I have in here are from God, not from the hair salon. Also, chlorinated water. Make sure that you filter your water. I filter my my bathing water and my drinking water to get the chlorine out. Hormonal, if you got your cycle early, you're at a higher risk. If you had late menopause, higher risk. Also, people who have never had children, you're at a higher risk. And then also hormone therapy. You know, there's natural hormone therapies, and then there's the type that can definitely cause you a lot of problems with your health overall. So be very wary when you're looking at hormone therapy. I take something called Life Tea, which is a natural aromatase inhibitor. It helps to keep my testosterone where it needs to be and my estrogen where it needs to be. And it does that naturally with seeds. So you want to find natural ways to help balance those hormones because, you know, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, you know, menopause and postmenopause is not fun, but there's so many things that you can do to help with, you know, I mean, the brittle nails, the hair, the skin issues, the bone density, libido, energy. And so I definitely go through for a natural approach to that for the very reason is I don't want to get breast cancer to come back and visit me. Early detection, that absolutely saves lives. Thermographic imaging is what I used really every other year. I would alternate mammograms and thermographic imaging. Thermographic imaging, you're going to see any abnormalities way faster than mammogram. And so I firmly believe in thermographic imaging. That's actually what caught mine. Mammograms had missed it for many, many years. So self breast exam, even if it's not a lump, you know, a hard lump, mine was soft and squishy. Like I said, I just felt like, I had a bunch of marshmallows in my breast. So just know that if it's different, that doesn't necessarily mean that it means nothing, just because it's not a hard lump. And then clinical exams, do that every year with your doctor. They can sometimes detect things before you can. Prevention, lifestyle choices, maintain a healthy weight. Again, I didn't know, the good news is after I was diagnosed with a big C, I then spent the money to go to a functional medicine doctor to find out why my metabolism was so messed up and why I couldn't, lose weight. So you want to eat a plant-based diet with lots of antioxidants, limit your alcohol and processed meats, exercise 20 to 30 minutes daily, manage your stress through mindfulness, prayer, meditation, journaling. I do a meditation audio every morning. I've got one that's 5 minutes and one that's 20 minutes. Depends on how much time I have. And then I do my stretches and my prayers. And so, just start your day and end your day in a positive way like that. And then you want to, avoid that extra hormone exposure too and radiation. Just because it's the insurance will pay for your x-rays for your dental visit, you don't have to do it every time they say it. Well, it'll pay for it now. Well, is it necessary then? The next is conventional treatment options that I want to talk about. So the first thing everybody knows about is the lumpectomy. That's where they go in and they take out the tissue, good margins, sew you back up. And then depending on how large it is, they may or may not recommend chemo or radiation. So that's traditional. The other is mastectomy. Sometimes people choose to have a mastectomy for prevention, if they've got the BRCA gene. And then sometimes it's recommended just because of the size of the tumor. I understand from my surgeon, anything larger than 5 centimeters, they opt for a mastectomy. Anything smaller than that, it would be a lumpectomy. And then it depends on the size breast too. I mean, I was a double D, so I had a lot of room to play with. The next thing is chemotherapy. Chemotherapy will sometimes shrink a tumor, and sometimes it's good to do that before your surgery. Mine, because it was very slow growing, chemotherapy was not going to work. They said, to shrink it before or to help me after. So I was glad with that because I didn't want to do chemo anyway. And so the next thing is radiation. And whenever, after my surgery, because it was in 5 lymph nodes, I'd had it for literally 19 years, almost 19 years. They recommended chemo, but I asked statistically what difference would chemo make at that point, and they said 5%. So I said, I don't want to mess up my immune system for a 5% difference. So I did not do chemo. And then radiation, they said recurrence within 7 years would be 50-50. So I'm like, okay, give me some radiation. So I did 30 rounds of radiation, and fortunately I had no problems with the radiation other than turning pink. I was inconvenienced by it and I didn't like going, but I won't say that it was horrible. So, and I'm fingers crossed that it didn't cause any other type of damage down the road. The next thing is hormone therapy. You could actually, there's lots of different hormone therapies that you can do to help you with your treatment of breast cancer, and then targeted therapies. There's immunotherapies, different things. Natural and complementary approaches, and this is really more of my wheelhouse, anti-inflammatory diet, cruciferous vegetables, the ones that everybody poo-poos and they hate, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the Brussels sprouts, the things that my husband says stink up the house, especially if you can get the sprouting, like the early baby broccoli, and the baby microgreens. That is really, really good for you. Also nuts, seeds, turmeric, berries. I juice a lot. I used to juice every day before my surgery. But anyway, whenever I'm juicing, I use carrots, beets, cucumbers, celery, lemons, turmeric, garlic, green apple. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily taste that great, but it's so good for you. I follow a program called Chris Work, Chris Beat Cancer. You can look him up online, and he has a recipe there. So detoxing, you need to get the toxins out of your body, because it doesn't matter how clean you live, you're just living in America, you're going to have toxins. So your detox support, you can do detox foot baths. I do those usually weekly. I have an infrared sauna. Just getting out and sweating is very, very good for you. And then hydration. You need to drink lots and lots of water. I start my day with water with lemon. It's a great way to detox. And you need to take your body weight and cut it in half, and that's how many ounces of water you need each day. Some supplements, and I take a lot of supplements, so you don't have to take as many as I do. But you specifically vitamin D. My doctor said that every single person he's ever had that was had breast cancer, every one of them was deficient in vitamin D. So vitamin D is key. Get your vitamin D in. Omega-3s, green tea extract, CBD, something called DIM, which is like baby Brussels sprouts and broccolis, vitamin C, lots of antioxidants. I do lots of mushrooms. Mushrooms are so good for, for helping with the prevention and also the recurrence of cancer. Gentle movement, yoga, rebounding, walking, dancing, swimming, stretching, bicycling. I love line dancing. It helps me mentally and physically stay on top of things. So a little bit about my story. And so I've already shared a little bit, but, so I thought I was being proactive. I was eating clean. I was kind of the girl that was drinking barley grass before it was cool, taking a salad bar to my family barbecue picnic. And so, I was really, really surprised that, in 2021, thermographic imaging, picked up, that I had a variation in my temperature in my left breast, and that on a scale of 1 to 5, it was a 3, and needed to seek a mammogram for further diagnosis. That was 2021. So I went in and I took all my pictures, and the radiologist looked at it and he said, "Oh, you're fine. You just have dense breast. Something's fishy on the right side, but you know what? You've had something there since 2010. You're good." And so I was happy. I said, "Well, thermographic imaging must have picked up something wrong." So then the next year, 2022, I went back to my for my mammogram, and a different radiologist said, "Susan, I looked at what you brought in last year, the thermographic imaging, and I feel something. I don't see anything, but I feel something that's different. I don't know what it is, but for peace of mind, go for a biopsy." And I didn't like the sound of that at all. And I said, "You know what? It's soft and squishy." I said, "I bet this is a lipoma. I make lipomas. I had one the size of a grapefruit on my back shoulder blade, like 10 inches behind where my boob is." And so I said, "It has to be that." And so he said, "It could be, but just get a biopsy." And so I went for my biopsy and was absolutely astonished whenever the doctor called and said, "Well, it's not a lipoma, it's invasive lobular carcinoma." And he said, "Unfortunately," he said, "it's probably been there a long time. These are not picked up by mammogram." And so mine was 9.5 centimeters. That's about this big, in case you're wondering. And so he said, "We're looking at a mastectomy, not a lumpectomy, because like I said before, 5 centimeters or bigger, you're doing a mastectomy." And I guess just the fact that I saw my sister go through that, and then the follow-up treatment after treatment after treatment, and then died in 4 years, it terrified me. So I said, you know what, let me see what I can do with my alternative stuff, because chemo is not an option to shrink it. Because a lot of times people will do chemo before surgery and then have a less invasive surgery. So I did everything I could for 6 months, spent a lot of money, my husband's money, on alternative treatments. And I did shrink it. And I knew that in 6 months that I had shrunk it. But what I had found during that period of time was that people that had this type cancer, because it's like a jellyfish with tentacles, it likes to spread, that they ended up with a mastectomy after the first lumpectomy and then a double mastectomy. So I said, you know what, at this point, let's just take them both off and I will regroup. So since then, I have been using all of my alternative treatments and trying really hard to stay on top of things with my exercise and my supplements, lots of water, lots of detoxing, and lots of positivity. I choose to stay positive and not negative. I don't hang around with negative people, places, or things. I won't watch anything that's violent on TV. I don't watch the news. My husband fills me in as much as I need to. But I feel like my faith has definitely got me through with this. There's a thing, faith over fear, so do not fear, for I'm with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteousness right hand. With God, all things are possible. So I fully believe that, if you have your faith, your family, your friends, and a good action plan, you can absolutely beat this. So just because you get diagnosed, that doesn't mean that you are going to be one of those statistics that doesn't make it. Just plan from the beginning that you're going to fight this with everything that you can, and know that after the treatment, you have to make some changes. You can't go back to smoking and drinking and eating fast food and a sedentary lifestyle and all the things that you did before that may have led to that. Stress too. We don't really know exactly what caused mine. My one thing out of all the things that they say, can lead to cancer, my one thing that was probably a red flag was my weight. And like I said, I tried and failed to maintain that, healthy weight. And it's a struggle now. I mean, I'm whole food, plant-based diet. I eat about 1,200 calories a day. I do a shake and a salad. And on my birthday, a national holiday, or if I'm on vacation, then I will stray from that a little bit and I'll have some other things, maybe a bite of birthday cake or a bite of that cheesecake my daughter makes during Thanksgiving. But I know that my health is worth it. It's worth the sacrifices, and that's what I choose to do. So I hope this has been encouraging for you. I'm sure eye-opening. I don't want to keep you awake at night, but I want you to think about these things and not just keep kicking the can and saying, I'll do it later. Because what's your health worth to you? If you don't have your health, then you don't have anything. I mean, how many of y'all know of people that they worked their butt off their whole life and then they retired at 65 and then died before they were 66? You don't want to do that. You want to live life to the fullest every day. And if it means, saying no to some things so you can get that 45-minute walk in with your family, or that 30-minute, detox foot bath, or the 30 minutes that I spend in hot yoga or the sauna, you are worth it. And so take the time to take care of yourself. So don't just do it during October Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Do it every day. Love you all.